On this cozy winter garden prep day, I am sharing how I winter sow seeds step by step for my spring vegetable and flower garden. I'm using a simple beginner-friendly method called winter sowing. Yes, you can sow in the winter outdoors, even where there's snow. Lots and lots of snow. You just have to use recycled containers like milk jugs or even ziplock baggies. This will create a greenhouse effect, allowing the seeds to germinate naturally when the weather is just right. So let me show you how I prep my containers and the seeds that I'm planting for my spring cottage garden and everything that you're going to need. We are going to start with the soil. This is a very important factor in your winter sowing. You want to buy potting soil, not seed starting soil, because seed starting soil will dry your containers very, very fast. And also potting soil has a little bit of nutrients. Of course, you're going to need your containers. You can get any containers that are see-through, either milk jugs, or I found this at the Dollar Tree. It is just like a shoebox container, and I like it because the lid is see-through. And you can even just get some ziplock baggies. These are freezer ziplock bags. You will also need scissors to cut your containers. I like to add tags to my seeds just so that I know what I'm sowing. Trust me, when you have lots and lots of containers outside in the snow or outside in your gardening in the winter, you will forget what you sow inside. And you need a garden safe marker and some tape. Last but not least, of course, you need your seeds, and seeds are very important because you cannot winter sow all seeds. You can only winter sow seeds that are cold tolerant, like brassicas, peas, perennials, even some herbs that are cold tolerant and that are in that same family. And perennials are seeds that come back every single year, so they naturally go through the seasons, so you know that you can winter sow those. Also, cold hardy flowers like lavender and other flowers that need cold stratification. That means that they need the cold for the seed to soften a little bit and like explode or like open, and then they can sprout. So let's start by prepping our soil. And then you want your soil to be pre-moistened. You don't want it to be dripping in water, but you still want it to hold its shape, and maybe like if you squeeze it real hard, a couple drops of water will come out. So we're going to add water. This is where you're going to get a little bit dirty with your hands to start mixing. Okay, let's see. Okay, it needs a little bit more water, a lot more water. This really makes me excited because the smell of soil just brings so many good memories of gardening. I love it. A little bit more water. This is like making mud pies, like when I was a little girl. In a perfect world, I would be doing this in a greenhouse or outdoors if the weather permits, but it is freezing cold outside. Okay, so let me show you what consistency you want. See, like if I grab it, I can even make a ball, and it is not really dripping water, but if I squeeze it hard, that's exactly how you want it. Now that our soil is pre-moistened, I'm going to show you my milk and juice jugs. This is actually a vinegar jug. Just be careful if you're using vinegar ones. You need to really wash it and make sure that there's no vinegar in here. But you are going to want to cut alongside of your container, not cutting the handle so that it can open and close. Let me show you another example. This is a distilled water one, and I just cut all the way alongside so that it can open and close. You want containers that have at least 4 inches of depth, because when you put your soil, you want your seeds to grow their roots and just stretch. Like, you don't want it to be really shallow, just so that they can grow strong outdoors. And this one would be kind of like 4-inch container, so it's perfect. Let's do one together. I just puncture like right here, and then with a really sharp scissors, I'm going to cut all alongside. And make sure that you don't cut the handle like I said. Before you do this though, I should have told you, before you cut alongside, you are going to perforate the bottom of your container for some drainage. So things that you can do is use your scissors. I've seen people also use like drills, or the perfect thing to do, I think, is just to grab a glue gun without the glue, and it's going to get like that metal part really hot, and you can just puncture the drainage holes at the bottom. You want to have drainage holes in every single one of your containers, including your Ziploc baggies. Right now we're just doing the jugs, but I'll show you how to do the Ziploc baggies as the video progresses. We're ready to start, and this is the fun part. One of the benefits and why I love to winter sow most of my spring seeds is because you're working with nature, and you literally do not even need to worry about grow lights, because you have what's best, which is nature, and the sun is going to act as the real MVP over here. It says indoor space in your seed growing station. And also the cool thing is that you don't have to cold stratify some seeds. Lavender needs to be on the fridge for a couple of weeks before you can actually sow it indoors. But if you do it outdoors, nature takes care of it. And even if the weather is freezing, because our soil is pre-moistened, it'll probably freeze solid, but then it'll go through a natural process of thawing and refreezing and all that stuff. That's going to really help our seeds. So let's keep doing some of these. Another cool thing about winter sowing is that seedlings grow already acclimated to your weather. Sometimes when you sow your seeds indoors, you have to get your seedlings outdoors so that they can get used to the wind and the sun. They're literally like newborns, and they need a lot of TLC. And if you leave them outside in the harsh sun, they'll actually fry and burn. So you need to, it's a process that you need to do it very slowly each day, incrementing like the sun exposure and all that stuff. But if you winter sow, you don't have to do that because they were actually born in the elements. Let me quickly show you how to do a Ziploc baggie. The same rules apply. You want it to be see-through, and then it has to have a little hole at the top so that the precipitation, whether it is snow or rain, can get into our greenhouse and water our seeds. And you also need some drainage. So I'm just making like a few cuts over here at the very bottom. This is a little close-up, and I'm just making like little triangular shapes. All right, so I even did my Dollar Tree container. You can see you want it also to be 4 to 6 inches, and it has the drainage holes at the very bottom and at the top. And this is how the Ziploc bag looks. Real quick, let me show you the seeds that I'm going to be sowing. These are only the winter sowing seeds. I'm also going to be starting seeds indoors. So first off, we have this cabbage. I want to make some kimchi with this cabbage. And then with this cabbage, I want to make some sauerkraut, some kale. I like to freeze this for smoothies or for soups. And then I'm going to be growing this little container broccoli. And this one is Romanesco. Look how beautiful. Next, I have these atomic red carrots, and then just some regular Denver carrots. I will be winter sowing some English lavender, some chamomile for teas, and some carnations. Also, these ones, I thought they were really pretty, like for cut flowers. They are called Bells of Ireland. Some straw flowers. Bachelor buttons. I love the vibrant colors, and they're good for pollinators. And some sweet peas. I thought these ones also were beautiful. They are delphiniums. Some lupine. And of course, echinacea, which is a purple coneflower, very medicinal. Up next, painted daisies. Poppies, I have different varieties. These ones are like a blend. Look how beautiful are these Hungarian blue poppies. And then this gorgeous poppy, it's called pizzicato mix. Next, some violas. These are the tiny version of violas, and they're called Johnny Jump Up. And also some giant pansies. These are apple blossom snapdragons. These ones are dwarf mixed colors. And then these ones are cherry twists. Last but not least, some herbs or medicinal things. This is marshmallow plant, and I cannot wait to make marshmallows like from scratch. Boiling like the pods and stuff and making it like all viscous and gelatinous. I'm going to be growing some thyme, oregano. This is dill, cumin, some peppermint, sage, and rosemary. Imagine just how much seeds space it would take me to do indoors. That's the beauty of winter sowing. I can just sow them in jugs and set them and forget them outside. Now the fun part begins. I'm going to be sowing in this jug broccoli de chico, and make sure that you read the back of your seeds because you want to know the depth. Don't worry too much about the days that it's going to germinate, because it is not going to germinate when you winter sow 10 to 14 days. It's going to germinate when the conditions are perfect and right for these seeds, which is going to be more like the beginning of March, hopefully. So yeah, I'm going to sow them 1/2 inch in, and don't worry about the spacing also when you're winter sowing. You can just like broadcast the seeds like that and then thin them later. All right, so I'm just going to do this. That's a lot of seeds. I was a little heavy on my hand, but then push them down, and I will be adding on top 1/2 inch of soil because that's what the instructions said on my seed packets. Alrighty, so you're just going to eyeball kind of like 1/2 inch of soil and then gently press. And you want to put a little tag, close it, and it's ready to be sealed with tape all around. But I'm going to do the rest of my jugs. Next, I'm going to be doing some violas. Once again, I'm going to look at how deep I need to sow them, 1/8 of an inch. And read the whole instructions, you guys. This one says that darkness aids germination, so I'm going to make sure as good as possible that I can cover all of the little seeds. You can see these seeds are tiny. So once again, I'm just going to very gently broadcast some of them and cover them 1/8 of an inch. So just a tiny bit of soil, but making sure that all of them are covered because they need to be dark, nice and cozy in there. I have my name tag in here. Obviously, you can also write it out here. I'm not gonna do that because I have Sharpies, and I think Sharpies are known to fade with the sun. I need to order myself a garden marker, but all right, one more to go. Now let's do the Ziploc baggie. For this one, I will be doing some rosemary. And I barely have any seeds, so I'm just literally going to dump all of them in here. 1/4 of an inch. I don't know, you just have to like eyeball it a little bit. And then press down. Now for Ziplocs, because they don't have this hole in it, you're going to create it. So I'm just gonna close like this. And you can use 2 clothespins to hold it open. And then also when I put it outside, I am going to suspend it by something so that it stays upright, because if I don't do this, it's going to just like go like that, and then no air is going to get inside, and also like the wind can just like turn it sideways. I don't know how to say it. And then all the seeds are just gonna go everywhere. So yep, but I'll show you that later how I set them outside. So a lot of people don't like to do carrots like this just because the carrot roots are very sensitive to like transplanting. But this is going to be an experiment. I'm gonna do carrots anyway, and then just, I don't know, we'll see how I transplant them. A lot of people though do winter sow carrots. So I'm going to be extremely generous, and then I can thin later. And this one goes 1/2 inch deep. This one's going to need a label. So now what there's left to do is grab your tape and close the containers, but do not close the little twisty lid here, because you want condensation built up from snow or from rain. Now you want to be sure that you put them in a sunny area in your garden where they can actually drain with the drainage holes that you did at the bottom of each container. And I'm going to turn the handles inwards because I am going to tighten them with this twine just in case we get really windy days. They don't tip over. I will get more twine for this part, but our work here is done. Now we're going to let Mother Nature take care of the seeds. They will germinate when the weather warms up and when it is perfect for each seed to sprout. Just as an example, I used this planter to set my Ziploc baggie. So this is how the chopsticks or like skewers, really long like marshmallow sticks can work. You would just puncture each Ziploc bag in a row, one against each other. And then this ledge and this ledge, it could be like cinder blocks. And that's how you keep them upright. I set this yesterday and you can see how it is frozen solid, but you also want to put something over here like cloth pins. I don't have any right now. I'm gonna go buy them at the Dollar Tree. But you just want to keep your Ziploc baggie open and upright.